So, hello everyone. For those of you that are watching this retrospectively, what we're going to be doing today is following on from our square layer demo, which we're going to recap on afterwards. We're going to talk about a triangular layer or concave layer. So the way we're going to go through this tutorial is I'm going to do the demo and talk through the demo, and then Jill and Joe are going to pipe in, join us with any bits that I've missed or anything they think would be interesting to add, and then we'll go through square layers again, and the difference between square layers, triangular layers, and why you would do this. Okay, I just got people joining. Okay, so going to start off with, same as most of our layering techniques, I'm going to take a center profile section all the way back. Okay, I've got Vinny and Nigel helping me today, so it might be a little bit yappy because they are in play mode. And they will certainly be getting under my feet. Okay, so center profile section. I'm going to move my doll's head to the side so you can see my elevation and my distribution. So, I'm going to start at the front and we're going to work our triangular shape from short to long. Okay, so basically that kind of angle going up. Okay, whenever we kind of like cut hair will always push weight from short to long. So this would kind of push weight back, it would loosen up the front a little bit more. Okay, so that's the idea of a concave layer. And as much as I'm not a big fan of layering fine hair, if you were to do any layering on fine hair, this sort of thing would be the way I would go to give shape around the front, so a bit loose around the front. So, taking my center profile section. Okay, we spoke before about being square when we're cutting square. I'm actually going to drop my shoulder down a little bit. Okay, being right-handed. So my fingertips are going to point towards the ceiling, and that would be my cutting angle. Okay, everything's still combed up. I'm not combing it out. I'm not over-directing it back. Everything's being combed straight up, and it's my fingers that do the work. Start off with them square, everything's square, and then as I get nearer to my cutting angle, okay, my right hand starts moving a little bit quicker to create the angle, and my fingertips move faster than my knuckles. So that way I get my angle. Okay, then what I would do is take a next section, using some from the previous to continue my line, and working all the way through. Now, where a lot of people go wrong with this layering technique is they stop at the apex. Okay, what I would suggest is you work all the way through the profile line to your cut hair. Danny's finding this really funny. Two puppies by my ankles, literally going there. Okay, what are you fighting over? Sorry. Okay. So that's my profile line all the way through. Now what I'm going to do, and we spoke before about this, is the top box. Okay. I'm going to take my top box through my apex section. And I'm taking my apex section from top of the head to just behind the ear. Kind of like the mastoid process, that bone just behind the ear, to separate front from back. Twist that off. Okay, and then I'm going to create top box. And like I say, just give that a little twist. And the sides, top box. And just give that a little twist, just so it's out of the way, but so we can find it again really, really easily. Okay, so I've already cut my center profile line. What I would suggest now is it comes to decision time as to kind of how you work. And we've had this discussion, okay, and there's a number of ways you can do this. Okay, your body positioning needs to be at the side. Now, I've already cut that center. I've taken a little horizontal section from that side. When I'm cutting, the side I'm working on, I will always stand on the opposite side and I will always pull into the center. And I'll use my mirror for the bridge of the nose. Okay, the next section I would then take. Combing that up and into the center, remembering that my knuckle is lower than my fingertips and I'm going up towards the ceiling. Okay, you can do this side. I would then stand the other side, taking back my center profile, working this through, okay, and standing over the other side and pulling this time. As I'm putting into the middle, my knuckle moves faster to create that and following my guide that I've already created from my line. Next section, exactly the same. Pulling into the middle, knuckles moving faster than my fingertips to create that line of short to long. Okay, and it's an imaginary line kind of working up. Now, body positioning. Got my top box in. Let's have a quick touch on that. I always pull and stand on the opposite side. But if you're quite vertically challenged and quite short, you might find that situations arise where you can't pull. You just can't reach around enough to get it over, to get the hair over. So what you can then do is you can push. And this side, you would then push to the middle. Okay? Or there is some train of thought where you stand on one side, and once you've got your center profile in, as you're standing on one side, this side you push, and this side you pull into the middle. Okay? There isn't any right or wrong in it. It's whatever kind of works best for you. As I say, for me, I find pulling is easier, but if you can't reach and get that hair over, then there's two arguments to it. Okay, two more arguments to it. So we've got our top box. Okay, and we spoke about this before. Now, cross-checking. This is the point where you cross-check. Okay, and taking the section across. Okay, and only a fine section, less than a centimetre. Okay, if you take any more than that, because you're angling the hair up, you won't actually see your guideline. So less than a centimetre, and you want to comb it straight up. Okay, and what you want to see is you want to see a V created and an even V. All right, it's really important with the top box as your safety buffer with this haircut, because when you'll start doing it, so many of you, one side, and if you're right-handed, it's generally the left side that you'll over direct, and the right-hand side, you have a tendency to square off. So what it does is it creates that kind of look. All right, and then you have to recut all the layers again. So if you do your top box first, and you can see you're creating that V, that makes life a lot easier. That's your check. Okay, so you're cross-checking, but you've got a smaller area to check that makes sure you're on the right track. So with that said, okay, and everything's in there and you've got a nice V because you've over-directed it, so it's traveling a greater distance. Okay, so you're creating a V, and that V would go short to long as well. What you can then do is you can finish off the sides. Okay, and I would say you go back to how you were doing it before. So working horizontally until you run out of hair. And for me, I'm going to pull everything up and in the side. My fingertips because I'm going short to long. My fingertips are higher than my knuckles. Everything's in the middle. And then I'm going to work through until I run out of hair. And that drops down. Same this side. The same. I pull, so I'm going to move myself to the other side. Working horizontally. Getting my sections nice and clean. Up and working this side, so my fingertips are lower than my knuckles to create my angle working up. Okay, putting everything in. Till you run out of hair. And off we go. Okay, so that is, now we've got our centre profile running all the way through our haircut. And we've got our sides done. Now this is a really great trick with this haircut. Okay, so I've got one guideline running through my back, through the centre profile. What I'm going to do is literally, I'm going to move my apex section, my radial section, just a little bit, 3 or 4 millimeters forward. Okay, I'm going to show you doing it on the other side. Okay. So at the moment, it was running down to the mastoid. Okay, I stand here. What I'm going to do is I'm literally just 3 or 4 millimeters just forward. So now, because I've already cut that hair, that gives me a guideline from my centre profile and also a guideline that I'm going to push back as well. So I've got 2 guidelines, because the trouble with this haircut, and another area where so many go wrong, is the connection from front to back. So when you comb it up, okay, you can almost see that one forward set of forward grad and then another layer about 2 inches past it. This helps you get that connection from front to back, okay, which is what we want to see, okay, unless you're actually going for obviously a disconnected haircut. So what I've got is I've got centre profile and a thin mesh either side. And then what we do is we kind of work exactly the same. Redefining my centre profile. Let's work this way. Okay. And we say that you work vertically down the head. And I'm a puller, so I'm going to stand this side, pulling into the middle, and my fingers pointing towards the ceiling. Now we say you work vertically, but because the head is a round shape, I don't know whether you can see that, even though we're working vertically, it does actually start to slightly pivot off. Okay, and that's the natural curvature of the head that will do that. Okay, this side. If I go there, you can see the sections a little bit better. So again, this is where, particularly with density and texture as well, where I've not gone straight in with the fine teeth, I'm using my wide teeth to pick the hair up, and then I'm getting the tension with the fine teeth and the correct tension. Okay, wide teeth, combing it up, picking it up, and when I've got myself to where I'm quite happy, I can then work that through and be picking that up and creating my line. Next section would go there, and then the final section checking that in. This side, I'm going to re-find my centre profile, get that out of the way. You can see, move that back a little bit. Again, I'm pulling. If you were a pusher, you'd stand on this side, elevating into the middle. What I would suggest you do is really, really important with this haircut is get used to using your mirror, okay? And for those of you that have done any driving lessons or anything, you know, mirror signal maneuver, literally kind of like what we would do is get yourself in position where you think you're going to be pulling the hair too, okay? Then just check over your shoulder in the mirror to make sure whether you're in the middle, okay? And once you are mirror, you can signal, which is just get it all absolutely spot on, and maneuver is your cutting. Okay, is the best way to remember that. And that's, yes, Vinny, and that is exactly how you would cut a triangular shape, concave, short to long. Nice and simple. Obviously, I've rushed through and Speed kind of spoken this through. We'll be publishing it on YouTube so you can watch it when, and we'll also as well, we'll have Jill and Joe are going to jump in now and give their kind of like adds to what I've just spoken about. Go on, Jill.
Go on, Jill.
Oh, me jump in, never. So, I mean, I think Matt has explained the technique beautifully, as expected. And, you know, we decided that we would work with the layering techniques in their simplest forms. With those of you that are a little bit more advanced, you'll be more aware that, you know, concave can be adapted accordingly. You know, we talk about doing short to long, long to short, or it can be a more rounded shape. So it's adapted and adopted as you progress through your training. You know, we spoke last week about square layering, you know, and it being sort of the minimal amount of weight being removed. So often, as Matt's like mentioned about texture earlier, suitable for thick hair, maybe to soften the outline. So, you know, highlighting the fact that where he mentioned this is a suitable technique on finer texture, because it's one of the layering techniques out of the three that retains that density on your perimeter shape. It allows you not to retain length, but also create that movement and texture. Yeah. So, Joe, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, to add that definitely is that you've got to, as we spoke about with the cutting in square, it's the hair that's left on the head that's important. So actually when you're doing your consultation and because I think, and going back to when I was training, and I'm sure you two agree, it's so overwhelming when you've got so many things being said to you and there's so many different techniques and so many different shapes and so many different this and that. What do I do for what hair? But I think it's really important that you just take a step at the beginning before you think, oh, well, you know, I'll just cut this square because that's what I'm best at. No, is that going to work for the hair? Because actually someone with really fine hair would definitely work out better with triangle, with concave. So yeah, I think it's really about making sure also that you stick to those guidelines once they've been cut in. Is that Finny?
Yeah.
He's trying to include him in, he is, isn't he?
Just
like I thought I'd just separate them for a minute, and it's worked.
Okay.
Probably for about 30 seconds. They're literally under the stand, under the tripod, literally under my feet. This is a health and safety hazard gone completely haywire. And if I tread on either of you, I do apologise.
Yeah, I think following on from what Joe says, I mean, what we hope to go into depth more maybe next week is looking at how the importance of hair analysis will give you the confidence and the strength to choose the right layering technique, you know, because a client doesn't understand what we mean by square or concave or parallel, but for us to understand what those techniques give us in their simplest forms will then help you decide which one may be more suitable and how to adapt that for someone's texture, for their hair type. You know, we'd say that, say for example today, a concave wouldn't necessarily be suitable on someone with quite strong type 3, type 4 hair, because you're not going to have a symmetry, and so it's a very slimming shape on straight hair, but also creates that sort of volume through the top area and sort of, you know, like, so you'd end up with separation with someone with curly hair, you know, where, you know, as we later on we'll talk about parallel, but maybe the more suitability in a rounder shape, you know, or square for just softening that perimeter shape. So it's us trying to sort of simplify or break it down for you a little bit better, why we'd say, right guys, that's a technique that's suitable for this hair toe, and you have the tools to move forward and say, no Jill, no, I absolutely know it should be this one, and have conviction behind that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget as well, we're doing these as bite size. Do you know what I mean? Sort of like, so just quick recap, kind of touching sort of like videos. If you do want a kind of more one-to-one tutorial, then you are more than welcome to message us, and then we can kind of go from there and do more of a one-to-one tutorial, more in depth, more suitable to your levels as well. So we're trying to hit as many kind of like levels as possible. Okay, so don't forget that as well, guys. This was a clean t-shirt, boys. Thank you.
I think it's hard because we in especially in Camden, we don't get the variety that you always need to be able to cover all these things. So I think it's actually going to work out quite well for you guys. I know that the theory can end up being quite mundane and boring, and you don't want to do online learning. But actually, these are really good to realise, okay, well, yeah, if I was to cut round into somebody's hair that's got very fine hair, you know, if you can try and understand that, then when you do get these models walk through the door, you can apply it and see, yeah, okay, that works. I get that now. So it's kind of like you're taking the information in now, but actually, let's say in 3-4 months' time, you do it and you're like, okay, that makes sense now. So although some of it might go over your head right now, you'll do it in the future and look back at this and think, oh, I remember what Matt said. I remember what Jill said. Do you know what I mean? So it's all relevant.
Yeah.
Very true.
Does anyone have any questions so far? No? Okay, that's cool. Obviously, the same rules apply with regards to your mapping of your layers. Okay, so we spoke before briefly about the area above the ear. Okay, so if this area above the ear, okay, that's the longest hair, that's our line. Okay, and because we've been pulling everything into the middle, if you were going to do this haircut, you were thinking of doing this haircut, you would pull it into the middle and make sure that you weren't going to be cutting that hair. Okay, and obviously you would do that first off.
I think, do you agree, Matt, that this is probably the easiest haircut to get lost in?
Yes.
It's
I think
very
because it looks the easiest, and it's that whole using the mirror and using the top box, using that buffer to make sure that you're creating that line. Because as I say, most people, most right-handers will get it beautifully right this side, but this side will be squared off, because rather than over directing into the middle, everything's going straight up as it would in a square layer. Okay, and once you've done that, obviously you then need to redo your whole haircut shorter. Okay, so that top box gives you that absolute buffer and stops you going wrong.
And that's the thing, I think, while also you guys are all, while you work formatively, so while you're practicing, you know, it's time is not of an issue. And this is, I think, fear can be an issue of you trying to rush. So, you know, while you're still, you know, perfecting a technique, take that time to watch yourself, watch your body position, look, use your mirrors, check your model is seated in the correct manner, because then when you come through to, you know, your summative, you'll naturally be faster, you know. So it's giving yourself time to absorb the information as you go along.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, you know, it's a skill being learned, you know, and it's doubly hard doing it in this manner without you kind of like getting the doll's heads out yourselves or getting someone sitting in front of you, which is why we say we can keep the knees down to quite bite size, quite short, quite informative, And then if you do want to take it in more of a one-to-one tutorial, then all you just need to do is message us and we can book something in, find some time to go through things in greater detail or answer any questions you may have as well. Okay.
That can be about anything, but you know, week on week, we're going to be doing little different bits and bobs, aren't we, guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And bearing in mind, I'm now the puppy whisperer. So if anyone's got any dog or cane,
I got one.
Oh,
is it about puppy yoga?
Keep it all day.
well, no, it'll be guinea pig yoga in this house.
Yeah. So yeah, roll on Friday. It's going to be interesting.
Oh God.
Sort me out.
Oh.
It's got some outfit out.
Oh dear.
So anyway, obviously we're less than 10 minutes, so that's been a nice kind of short, sharp, kind of like punchy half hour or so, which I think is enough to be going on with. So with that said, I'm going to stop the recording. Once I figure out and remember how to do it.